I began to see the Jewish community as a great big party that I wasn't invited to. It was hurtful because I saw it as my own, and then realized that I really didn't even have the basic language skills to even be in the conversation. So I spent some time searching, and after after several experiences that were humiliating, just downright embarrassing, I got a list of synagogues in New York City, and my future mother-in-law made this list for me, and it was just pre-internet, so they were all written out on this big yellow legal pad. She wrote down every single synagogue and the address, and we started going every single Friday night to a different synagogue because I really just hungered for a place where I could do some learning. And so we searched, and every Friday night I would leave crying because I couldn't find my place. And either it was completely alienating and just, again, not in a language that I can understand. And I don't just mean Hebrew, I mean all of the rituals and customs were so foreign to me. Or I understood everything and I felt like it just wasn't stimulating enough. If I, who knew nothing, understood everything, then it didn't seem real to me. So we kept searching. We went week after week for the good part of a year, looking for a place where I could actually begin to learn. About the 36th week into this journey, I happened into B'nai Jeshurun on the Upper West Side, which I'd never heard of before. And I actually remember saying to David, my husband, who was at the time my very good friend who was on this journey with me, I remember saying to him before we walked in the door, this is it. If this doesn't work, I'm done with the Jewish community. I've put in, almost a year traveling around Manhattan, going to all of these different places. If we can't find it here, we're done. And I walked into the synagogue, and we sat in the back row. It was actually in a church at that time because the roof of the synagogue had fallen in, and so they were borrowing a church down the street. And I sat in the back row, and I just started crying, but this time they weren't tears of alienation and embarrassment. It was tears of joy. I think I felt like I found my home for the first time. And Rabbi Marshall Meyer was there, and Rabbi Roli Madelon, and they started preaching, and they were talking, I remember really clearly, they were talking about AIDS and homophobia and how our fears have allowed us to step aside and allow this disease to really become an epidemic, and that each one of us had an obligation as Jews and as human beings to stand up and to speak out. And I was so deeply moved and so shocked. I had never heard someone speak something relevant in the walls of a synagogue before, in the context of a religious service before. And then people just rose to their feet and started dancing in the aisles and singing with all their hearts. And I turned to David and I said, I get it. I get why it feels so real in here, because this Jewish life is actually about something. And so we started going every week after that. And I really felt like my journey shifted from one that was just about filling in the gaps so I wouldn't be embarrassed to one that was about falling in love and learning in the deepest and most beautiful way.